Oh, next week we're going to talk about, I don't know.
Beverley.
Hi everyone, thanks for joining us on Marketing Beat. We are so excited to have you guys here. Today we're going to be talking about 3 paid strategies for small businesses. My name is Beverley Theresa. I'm a social media consultant from Edmonton. And this is my co-host.
I'm Ameet, and I own an online marketing agency that specializes in pay-per-click advertising. And today we're going to be talking about 3 paid strategies for your small business.
I'm so excited.
I felt very robotic, Shane.
I know. You sounded robotic, but I'm excited.
I'm trying to think of what I'm saying because it's like jumbled up in here. Okay.
If you're a small business, you definitely want to watch this recording. And if you're watching us on YouTube right now, later, hit that subscribe button.
Thank you.
Okay, go.
Anyway, so we're going to go over 3. First one's going to be kind of like a general idea or strategy, and then one's going to be service-based related, and then one's going to be product-based related, just for everyone, I guess, just to cover our bases. So the first strategy that I like to use is geotargeting, or something called like geofencing. So it's essentially a practice where you're delivering content, obviously to a consumer, mobile or web, and you're using like their geographic location, or like the information from their geographic location to send traffic to them, essentially. So businesses would essentially restrict its reach, in a sense, to only certain areas of the city or the state. So that would be, like, I don't know, maybe like a Tim Hortons. If we want to just do coffee ads, be like, why drink Tim Hortons when you can buy a bag of Starbucks coffee or something? I don't know. Something along those lines. You could actually tailor content to where you exactly are. So like sometimes for some clients, I'll do fencing around competitors. So if they're at a competitor's location or something along those lines, we'll just fence them in and just be like, why are you here? You should be with us.
Really?
It sometimes works. It sometimes doesn't. It is what it is. But it allows you to, it kind of gives you more like a much deeper and probably much more meaningful traits. Like you're able to figure it, how do I explain this? You're able to tell what the person wants already based off of where they are. So then you already know what they're interested in, which is kind of cool. Yeah, I know, it's a nice one. Yeah, so it just like kind of, you already know what they're looking for, so it helps just putting a fence around them and then serving them something very specific. So that's kind of actually basically that. And if you actually look at it, CTR tends to be higher for location-based, sorry, I can't talk today. Location-based ads or campaigns, and the information that I have is a little dated. Unfortunately, I couldn't find anything more relevant, but this is from 2014, and basically what we saw was the benchmark was at 0.40 for geofencing in general, but then we see that every other industry out here actually performed a lot better, and that's because you're serving people with extremely tailored ads. So obviously they're going to click through, because how did you know where they were? Which I think is kind of good fun. But
yeah, that's creepy.
Yeah.
I like it.
But that's it, really, right? So basically all you're doing with geofencing is you're narrowing down your target. You're essentially, by decreasing your exposure, you're kind of increasing your exposure, because instead, if you only have, let's say, $10 a day to spend, and you want to, and then you do maybe, let's say, all of BC, it's only going to get stretched so far, because people might only see your ad maybe once twice if we're talking like a display campaign. But if we narrow down on places, we can hit them a few more times, so that way, at the very least, they're aware of our brand. So the logic is essentially just becoming more prominent in certain areas versus having everyone see us and not really remember us. And it allows us to be extremely topical, because things could happen. In Edmonton, it's snowing still, right? But it's sunny out in Vancouver. So if something affects my business that's related to weather, I can write ads that are for Edmonton in the winter, because apparently it still is, and then something that's a bit more springy for BC.
Matt has a question.
Okay.
I noticed a higher CPC on my geofence ads. Is this normal, or should I be tailoring it differently?
No, sometimes you end up seeing a higher CPC. I feel like more often than not, I've seen something a bit lower, and that's just because you're tailoring it that much further. So I would maybe try to add a couple more interest groups and test that out and see how that goes, because you're probably just not narrowing down enough. But yeah, that's my assumption off of that at the very least.
For answering that, Ameet.
I tried. My voice is going to cut out a little bit now. I already know. And then tip number 2 is call-only campaign. So this would be for like a service-based business. So it's basically dedicated just to mobile. User clicks the ads. It initiates a call with like a Google forwarding number. And yeah, perfect. Like literally, that's like the gist of it in a sense, right? Is that we had a client at the agency that we worked at. I don't know if I was on that account. I think somebody else did the account, but basically they were plumbers, and we were getting paid per call. And eventually they actually had to stop paying us that way because we were getting paid too much, apparently. It was really funny. But essentially what we ended up doing was a call-only campaign, and then just focusing on the keywords that we needed, and then narrowing down, of course. And then eventually at one point it just started generating so many calls because we had the right keywords that it just kept on going. And for this service-based business, it grew exponentially. And especially since they were like kind of in the emergency side too, you're around all day long if you want to be, or you can put an ad schedule in and then you're only available from like 9 to 2 or 9 to 5 or whatever time base you're actually working. Sorry, I've got a really janky setup today.
Like your lifesavers?
Huh?
Your lifesavers?
Yeah. You saw them?
Yeah. When you turn the screen around, it was like lifesavers.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm using that as my stand because my brother's getting married right now. So the house is a little bit of a clusterfuck, and then I'm also moving into the basement, so I don't know where anything is. So I couldn't find my stand because I don't know where it is.
Okay, judgment hasn't been passed.
Huh?
I'm not judging you.
Try. I know. And this would be like an example of what those ads would look like if you don't already know. So I pulled it from like Ukraine. I don't know why, but that's essentially what would happen. So you'd have essentially it's like business name and the phone number, I think, in here. I probably should have picked an English one, but I'm stupid. It'll show a URL, and then you can put in your text, obviously, like usual. And then basically what ends up happening, they click and it just goes straight to your phone versus it going to a website or a landing page. So
is that on mobile, or will that show up on desktop too?
No, it's just mobile.
Okay.
Yeah. So the whole purpose is just basically just to generate those clicks. And so you have to be available, obviously. Sorry, my throat is fucked. So a couple tips. I don't know if I make this. So a couple tips for your call-only campaigns is to obviously, well, not obviously, but be very careful. Well, not careful. Sorry. Give me a second. I'm so hungover. We're very professional people.
I'm not.
Because you have less input on how, or less input in like a call only campaign than you would in like a PPC campaign, you don't necessarily you don't really get a headline. You basically, your headline's essentially your phone number, like you saw on the example. So it using like the display URL to like showcase the keywords that you want and stuff like that is actually a really great idea, because you can use like, I think it's 35 characters to reinforce your message. And since you don't have the headline, it's an actually great place to actually input all that information. So a lot of people tend to do what that example was, which was just not the email, just the website with nothing after it. And I think that particular ad would perform better if we just add a couple more keywords into there, because people are looking for exactly that. So if you aren't showing those keywords, obviously they're not going to click because they're assuming that it's going to be complete trash. And I really, 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 really hope I'm being coherent, because I don't know. I feel like a mess a little bit. And then you use call-centric keywords, right? So obviously the goal is for you to get them to call you. So don't say learn more, or I don't know, learn more. What else would be? Learn. Okay, let's just go with find out more or something, like those type of things where it's just like, we're going to drive you to a landing page and you're going to read further. Instead, what you want to do is like, book a call, or no, book an appointment or something like that, right? Obviously that insinuates you're going to end up calling someone. Call us now, that type of stuff, because then at least that person knows that when they click on the ad, it's going to go directly into a call, and it also encourages them to do that, right? And then the next part is scheduling your ads strategically. So that goes back to that plumbing example that I was kind of giving you guys, where for them, they were an emergency business, so 24 hours made sense for them. But if you're not available 24 hours and you're only working from 9 a.m. to 2 a.m., schedule your ads around that. Don't let your ads run the entire day, because then you're going to end up getting phone calls and you're not going to answer them. And if you do answer them, you might not be able to service them. And that's just going to leave a negative experience for that person. Also, it's going to waste a ton of your cash, so there's literally no point. Right? So make sure you actually sit there and figure out what hours you can work every single day, because calls will start rolling in eventually. And then also, sorry, if you're a local-based business, obviously location targeting is a massive thing. So make sure you're using like a local phone number. If somebody sees like a 1-800 number, they likely won't call. In Edmonton, sometimes even people see 587 numbers get a little weirded out by it, even though it's an Edmonton number, because I have it. So I have a lot of people go, where did you get that number from? And I'm like, it's an Alberta number. Why are you screening my calls? But that's the thing, right? If I want to find someone who's local, I'm not going to call a 1-800 number. I'm not going to call a 587 number. If I'm in BC, I know that there's 604 and 778, and out there it's a little bit different, right? So make sure that you're using local numbers, because that's going to encourage people to come back to you, and also they'll believe that you're local even if you're a national company. And then the last tip, I guess, is retargeting, actually, for non-converting callers. So syncing all your call data with a retargeting campaign, and then creating lists off of that, and creating like search ads off of that, actually empowers you to retarget. Sorry, I thought I saw a spider up there. Shit. I am a mess today. It's been a hectic week. I haven't slept in like 3 days. Oh, no, actually, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? I've lost count. Fuck it. Who cares? Anyways, so syncing your call data with your retargeting campaigns actually really helps encourage you to retarget your audience more effectively, because you already know that they haven't converted, right? So then you can just create ads with the language that essentially would say, why didn't you come back? Like, why did you not call us? Why did you call somebody else, if anything? Which I always find kind of funny and really, really cheeky. So I'm always a big fan of doing stuff like that. And I find that it performs really well as well. So it's always a great idea to put in a retargeting campaign for all of your stuff, especially for people who haven't converted, because those are the people that we're missing out on. Everybody else that have converted don't need to be retargeted unless it's a product based business, right, where you're trying to upsell them. But if it's a service-based business where they came in, they fixed your heater, there is literally no point in sending them essentially a message every 20 seconds with your ads being like, hey, come back to us, because they've already fulfilled the order. So yeah, non-converting is always a good idea. And then, holy crackers.
You have 9 minutes.
I'll make it. Oh. My voice doesn't give up. And then the last one is for product-based businesses, and that's dynamic remarketing. So in the past, Google had merchant accounts, which are becoming extremely valuable within Google Ads in itself. But now that they're feeding more as product listing ads or as product listing ads and remarketing. So with Google's new dynamic remarketing feature, Google will dynamically create ads for you that include the price, an image of the product, and your text. And you're writing the text, so it won't pull the information from your website or whatever. And all based on the behavior of the person that was on your website. So I started noticing dynamic ads. It was a good couple years ago, obviously, but it was actually from Staples. And they retargeted me on Facebook when I was looking at like chiseled Sharpie pens. And then I couldn't stop seeing them all over the place. And then eventually they were like, okay, well, you also looked at these other things, so now we're going to start showing you those ads as well. So it's kind of really cool because dynamic remarketing essentially just shows the visitor ads that contain products and services that they viewed on your site. So it's not irrelevant. It's actually very, very relevant because we're tracking exactly what they've been searching for or looking at, if you will.
That makes sense.
Holy cracker jacks. I literally don't know if I'm going to make this. Why you should use dynamic remarketing. It pairs the feed of products with dynamic ads, scales campaign ads to cover the entire inventory of your eShop. So you don't actually really have to worry about anything after everything's synced up, which is kind of really fantastic. Google Ads product recommendation engine will pull products from the feed and then determine the best mix of each product that you looked at based on popularity and then based off of what pages you viewed on the site, right? So they're taking into consideration popularity and also what you looked at, right? Wow. And then it also predicts which dynamic ad layout will perform better, which is really, really freaking cool. So it'll do it for like the person, it'll do it for the platform, and it'll also do it for the placement, which is, it's kind of really sick because you don't have to do anything. And then they also calculate the best bid by impression, which is essentially an
Adnan. Oh, you froze. Your face.
What did I say? Oh. Okay, so they calculate the optimum bid for each impression, which is essentially enhanced CP. It's the enhanced CPC strategy. And I think it's kind of using dynamic remarketing, I think is the best way for product-based businesses to go, just because we already know so many things, right? We know that they viewed this product. We know that it's popular. Google handles the bidding, right, and gets us the best bid. And really, in reality, I know that we're all going to sit there and be like, are they getting us the best bid? But we have to literally like wave our hands up and let the PPC gods do what they need to do, right? Yeah. But then they also create the entire layout. You're basically just providing the pictures, a little bit of content, and off they go. So if the person is more likely to click on an ad that's 300 by 250 versus a 160 by 600, they're going to show that person that exact 300 by 250 and not the other way around, because they don't want to waste impressions. They want to give you as many clicks as possible because that's essentially how they get paid, right? So that's in their best interest. So they'll do it off of that platform. If it might be, I don't know, retargeting on like one of Google's platforms, I guess, or if they're placing the ad in like a website or an AdSense website, they'll take care of all of that. So it's really great. It's really easy. You kind of, to a certain degree, I don't want to say set and forget it because I really don't like that. You get to set it and then you just monitor, essentially. So you're not forgetting about it, but you can go in and put your not put your optimizations in. You can optimize as you go forward versus having to create thousands of ads and then sitting there and spending hours and hours and hours, because that's not fun. And I haven't done product ads like that, but I've done a lot of text ads where I've written way too many for an account and wish there was an easier way, which is now available. Yeah. So that's basically it, I think.
Next week, let's talk about Pinterest, because I'm getting lots of questions about Pinterest. So let's talk about Pinterest next week. And if you have any questions that you want answered during that, just slide into my DMs. If you have questions about PPC and today's live, slide into Ameet's DMs. If not, we'll see you next week at 11 a.m. Mountain Standard Time on Wednesday.
Also, sign up for my newsletter if you haven't, and if you have signed up, read it today. God damn.
You're so bossy.
And so what?
Nothing. Okay. Bye. Thanks for joining us.
Bye, friends.
Bye.